Welcome to the Delingpod with me, James Delingpole. And I know I always say I'm excited about this week's special guest, but before we meet him, a quick word from one of our sponsors. Welcome back, Simon Elmer, to the Delingpod.
Hello, James. It's good to be back. It's been quite a while, hasn't it, since we last spoke? I think this is our third time. The world's getting worse, but we're just about able to keep on talking to each other. So let's use the opportunity.
Well, one of the few consolations, and there really are very few, for knowing that the world is run by Satanists who want to kill us all or enslave us. One of the few consolations is getting to talk to people I would never have talked to before. People like you. Because, I think, I said this before, 20 years ago, I would have probably considered you to be a kind of leftist nutcase, and you would have considered me to be a kind of fascist, or I don't know what you'd have called me.
Perish the thought. Perish the
thought. You've moved to Hong Kong.
Yes, I've been here since January this year.
There's a gesture of confidence in the UK.
I know, it's so sad, James, that the number of people who have asked me, either in person or in writing, where should I go in the world? I mean, people living in Britain at the moment, which is a real, it's the sort of stuff we're going to be talking about. I am one of the, how many is it now? It's a huge number. I think about 500,000 people have left, British citizens have left. I don't mean emigrating, but actually left the country, in the last sort of 3 years or something. And I'm one of them. And, it's not surprising. I was back in the UK this summer for 3 months. And I think after I'd been living here for sort of 7 months then, coming from Hong Kong and China back to the UK, back to London as well, over this summer was a real eye-opener. Even though I know the place obviously back, like the back of my hand. I was born there, lived there for years. It's still surprising to see the next level of degeneration, if you like, that's been going on.
What did you see? What struck you?
Well, I arrived, strangely enough, the day before the general election, and to which I did not vote in. And over that month between then and the event, the stabbings in Southport. First of all, just sort of coming back to the streets of London. I live in South London, South Central. Over here, I think in all the 6 or 7 months I've been here, then, I don't think I'd seen one person kicking off. I think I'd seen one person kicking off, by which I mean someone going mad in public. Someone who was drunk and screaming and shouting or something. There is absolutely no violence here whatsoever. The streets are immaculate. And just coming back to London, I think the very first day I got there, I went out on my bike, nearly got run over by someone in a car, who then opened their window and got this sort of stream of abuse at me, which is a daily experience in London, probably is across many parts of the UK. So I was struck by that. But I was very struck by the election. It came out straight away that only 35% of the people who did voted for Keir Starmer's government, the Labour government. But out of the entire electorate registered to vote in the UK, only 20% did. And yet, our electoral system has always been very peculiar. It is peculiar. And it's been really manipulated this time, I think, more than it ever has been before, because Starmer's government has got a 174-seat majority in the House of Commons, which is, I think, the 4th highest majority in the history of Parliament.
Yes.
So you've got a tiny mandate from the people, not a mandate, it's a minority government, but it's also got absolute power in that government. It can push through almost anything straight away. And I was also struck by the way that the Labour Party, the new MPs, the Parliament itself, the 650 MPs, half of them have never been in Parliament before, in the House of Commons. So they're absolutely brand new to the job. And it was celebrated as being the most diverse Parliament ever. It had the highest number of Asian, Black, gay, or LGBTQ plus WXYZ, of women, every kind of diverse sort of, and all the members of Parliament. I think it was exclusively actually the Labour, this huge majority they've got. They immediately started representing themselves on Twitter and social media in these identity groups. So all the Asian and Black people got together, all the gay and LGBT MPs got together, all the women got together and they represented themselves like this. It reminded me of a sort of a beauty pageant or wedding photos. These kind of photos of them standing in the Houses of Parliament, photographing themselves as representative of this demographic, whether it was defined by race or religion, because you had a high percentage of the highest percentage ever of Muslim MPs, or of women, or of gay, or whatever. And I thought, this is dangerous. We've had an appalling parliament since March 2020. We've spoken before about this huge wave of coronavirus justified legislation, which was kind of waved through or simply rubber stamped in retrospect after it had already come into power. But this parliament, I've always called that parliament the worst in living memory, perhaps in history, but this one's even worse. And I began to
Yes.
think, what's going to be done with it? What's its? How has it been selected? What's its job? Why has it been selected according to these principles of identity politics?
Can I just say briefly that this you say that this parliament is worse than its predecessor, which it undoubtedly is,
Mm,
but the previous parliament was designed to ensure that this one was brought into being. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that the sole purpose of the Rishi Sunak debacle regime
mm,
was to be so embarrassing and so lame as to make it possible for the keys to be handed over to Keir Starmer, and you know to be handed over to such a degree that as you say, Starmer can push whatever legislation he likes,
mm,
nem con pretty much
mm, mm.
because there's no opposition, and that was. I mean, I hope you agree with me on this one. That we have not been that democracy is an illusion, and
Yes, I
and
think,
that that
I think we all agree with that. Yes.
yeah, the idea that there's a blue party and a red party and that they
Yeah.
oppose each other.
Yeah.
I don't know when that state of affairs actually existed, if
Mm,
ever, but it certainly hasn't for a very long time.
mm. I mean, I was very struck that in the last mayoral elections for the mayor of London, which was won again by Sadiq Khan, a Muslim Pakistani mayor, who is
Mm.
one of the
Loathed.
greatest kind of one of the most loathed, but also the real driver of identity politics, the kind of the division that we see, um, and of replacement immigration as well. Everyone knows that white British now make up something like a third of Londoners and so on. And I was very struck that when the last elections for mayor of London, was it earlier this year or last year? I can't remember now. His opponent, who's ostensibly was put up by the Conservative Party, I'd never heard of her before. I literally had never heard of her. I had no idea who she is. It would be pretty hard for the Conservatives to vote, put up a worse candidate for that position, which is a very
Mm.
powerful position. And I think that's because he plays the role that both parties want the London mayor to play there. But going back to the general election, Starmer actually was elected the leader of the Labour Party and therefore the leader of the opposition within the Houses of Parliament in April 2020, so the month after lockdown. Um, and he was elected by this 20% of the electorate who voted him in. It's only about 9 million people out of a country of, what are we, 69 million now. Throughout that period, he didn't oppose anything that the Theresa May and then Boris Johnson, whatever, all the Conservative government did. They supported them in lockdown. They supported them with mandatory masking, with gene therapy rollout, and making that a condition of employment for the NHS and care workers and so on. He supported the proxy war in the Ukraine. He supported the genocide in Gaza. In other words, he hasn't opposed anything at all. And I think during that period, he showed himself to be the candidate to lead the country into this next stage of the Great Reset. It's interesting. He and what is it?